Hey everyone, this is your girl, Nicole, your favorite expat and well-being coach. And today we're going to talk about if I had to move to Asia in 90 days, starting from scratch, here's exactly what I would do. So you want to take a notes, copy this down, what I would do if I was moving to Asia so that you can make it happen. And by the end of this video, you're going to have a clear short list, a realistic money plan, and your first actions for the week. So, as you know, I have been helping women move abroad. I have been living abroad in Asia for 11 years. So, I do know a thing or two about Asia, and I'm just going to get right to it. So, first of all, the thing that I want you to think about, my three rules is you want to have some stability. So thinking about money, housing, paperwork, and you want to also think about your nervous system. So your environment actually matters way more than you think. And then action creates clarity. I've said this in my other video. So just remember that that's what's going to give you the clarity that you need for the things that you desire. So let's just talk about days 1 to 14. So that would be actually 2 weeks. So you want to know what would you do? So the first thing I would say is pick your season, which what are you in? Like, is it about career and money, or is it about health and well-being, or is it a combo? Is it like dating and community? What does that look like? Because if you don't like pick a season, if you don't know what it is, then you're going to want to go everywhere. So you really want to know like what your purpose is so that it will help you to filter out. Now you want to know what are your city filters? So do you want to be in a walk-in city? Do you want to be in the mountains? Do you want to be on a farm? Do you want to be in a big city? Do you want to be in the suburbs? Do you need to have a park space? Like you need to know what's going to make you feel calm when things aren't going the way that you want them to, or just even just to have another wellness practice. Now you want to have like a reality pricing. So I would go and I would check out some neighborhoods, 10 apartments, grocery costs, gym and fitness costs, commute costs. And you just want to get like a roundabout like price. Okay. Then you want to, if you lived here, how long would it take me to go where I need to go? Whether that's work or your cafe or to meet up with your friends. Okay. So that is something that you really want to do. And then there's the between time strategy. So when you have some downtime, I highly suggest like putting in the city, the place, the country that you're looking to go to, and start to see like if you could find people on Instagram, on Threads. Why? Because you get like another like real raw like perspective of the space that you're going to. You get like a nice idea because there's certain things that you may Google that you're not going to see. And I would also say if you can find people on YouTube, it means a world of a difference. And especially if the footage is recent. That's why I initially said Instagram first and Threads, because those are generally more in real time. But YouTube, I would just check the date of recording because maybe that person was traveling. But it's a good way to kind of get a lay of the land and the vibe. So, and you want to know as you're following people, like is this person working there? Is this person a blogger, content creator? That also matters because that may shift your perspective. And depending on why you're going there, then you might be able to see out of their lens. Okay. And generally, those are filmed like a day in a life or the cost of living in. I would definitely do that because your brain needs info, but your nervous system might just need some visuals. Then, so now you have like cities, you have a short list, you have a budget range. Then we move in from day 15 to 45. So now we're moving almost at a month. Now this is like where you actually build the engine of like your plan. So first, of course, you want to create like three buckets. You want to have like a Money, moving costs, so that's the flights, deposits, and those type of essentials. Then you want to have another bucket for when you arrive into the country, like how much money to just live. Ideally, I would say 2 to 3 months. And then you want to have a buffer, like emergency money if you have to go home abruptly or just like family, or something else that comes up that you are ready, you can go. And of course, if you are American, like I would also check to see which of your credit cards that does not have international fees. I'm not a credit expert, but Capital One, for example, Chase, okay, for example, they don't have like foreign transaction fees. That's something that you want to think about. Like, do any of your banks have international affiliates? I'm a big proponent of Charles Schwab. My favorite card. So you might want to start making sure you have that. And like, how are you going to send money? If you have bills in the States, how are you going to set that up? And what's going to be the most affordable? And then the next thing is thinking about your job plan. So the most popular thing or most common thing when people come to Asia is teaching, especially if you are a classically trained teacher. So definitely start looking for teaching jobs. Another popular field I see like in Hong Kong is working in finance. That's quite popular. In Thailand, I see hospitality in addition to still teaching. So you really want to know which route are you going, or what kind of money, and or just try to work in the embassy. Go to USA Jobs and you can find jobs on there. And then of course, look to see if one of your favorite companies, maybe the company you work for, if they have an international division. Many companies have international divisions. So never, just Google it, look, ask if you could come abroad to this side. Amazon is like a good example of that. And so is Agoda in Thailand. So, and I don't work for these companies, I'm just throwing them out. And of course, as I always say, I'm not a visa expert, but just make sure that you have the correct visa. Know which visa you're planning on using so you know what you need to gather. And the documents part, which you should definitely start before you go to abroad, right, is know when your passport's about to expire. Make sure there's an app you can get, the scan app, scan all your documents. It doesn't stay in your photo album, but it stays in your scan documents. You want all these things. You can create a move folder. So you can start having yourself organized. Then you also want to decide, are you going to keep your number in the States, or are you going to get an eSIM? Are you going to turn it off, bring it abroad? These are just some things to think about. And as it pertains to wellness, what is going to be your wellness continuity plan? Like, are you going to continue going to yoga, going to meditation, or are you going to search these things out? I would highly suggest that's another thing that you can check on Instagram and oftentimes on Facebook, just to start connecting. How are you going to also continue your therapy classes or therapy sessions? That is something to think about beforehand, especially when you talk about a time difference and when you talk about your own wellness. So you want to make sure that these things are accounted for. So now by this end of the phase, you should have a clear plan on your job, a money system that is set, your documents are organized and scanned, and now it won't feel as chaotic for you. Then we go from day 46 to 90. So now we're at the 90 day mark. At this point now you have a housing strategy. You can focus on landing and being stable. You could start thinking about, do you want short term first and then, long term? And of course, this is a great opportunity. I would say getting an Airbnb for like a week and then getting a lay of the land is the best thing that I would recommend. That way you don't like invest into something and then you get there and you're like, oh, I like this area better. So you actually, and you can also negotiate in person, something you can't do online. And then that week, you want to just start having your basic stuff, like your transportation card. Do you need a Metro card? Your phone, right? That's the things that you really want to do. And then once you have that all sorted, you want to start thinking about your community plan, right? Community is like so essential. So joining a variety of groups, joining, getting on Meetup, also I would say Instagram, also Facebook events, join all of these things. And I would actually say get a mix of different groups. So, for example, maybe a group that's like locals for language exchange and community classes, then one that's maybe just curated for expats. Oftentimes you can find ones that are from people from America or Black people or, people from the Caribbean or, I say join all of them. And then interest-based groups. Maybe you are into dancing or you're into yoga or you're into books or volunteer. I say join all of them. This is like the best way because you're not committed to like a friendship at the moment. Right now, you're just connecting and trying to see where your people are. And then lastly, I would say make sure your sleep is on point, like, sleep, noise, like that type of a thing. And you can just like do these things over and over again. Because one of the things that I've seen in my 11 years abroad is that sometimes I've seen people pick a place because it was like cheap, for example, and cheap relative to maybe where they left in the US, but then they didn't like it or it was far out or it was hard to get around. I've seen people do that, right? So you don't, or you're in an area where it's like nothing but tourists, right? So that's one thing. Another thing I've seen is like doing a lot, so much research and like never taking action. Like they're on day 10, excuse me, year 10 of like, oh, I'm gonna move abroad. So you don't really want that to be you. Or number three, I see moving without a runway and then like calling it faith. Now, I'm a very spiritually based person, but you're not gonna hop on a flight and like never. I can hop on a flight and do things with a lot of faith right now because I've done this for 11 years. But if this is your first year, you want to make sure that like there's so much that comes with moving that you don't want to add any type of thing that's going to have you stressed out and like deregulated because it's not like you're going to be able to just run to your mommy's house or your grandma's house, right? So please don't do that. And trying to build community everywhere instead of building one lane. Um, Sometimes I feel like one of the beautiful things about moving abroad is that you learn so much about yourself. And you don't want to count yourself out of opportunities. You might surprise yourself by joining certain communities and activities. You might learn that you have like interest in one area. I've seen people try to kind of put themselves only in one box, and you don't want to do that. You don't want to do that. So I would say that just like join all the groups. um it would be really good for your soul. I think it would be really, really good. Because what's the sense of like moving abroad and still being like closed? Like, how are you gonna grow? Like, it's a beautiful opportunity. I would say definitely take advantage of it and allow yourself to just expand, you know? So tell me in the comments, what are your biggest worry about moving? Is it money, loneliness, career, safety, or health? Share in the comments because I really know that you can do this. And I'm here for liberation. I'm here for us living our best rich life in Asia. Take care. Bye.